Patreon Q&A number 135. I want to thank all 128 of my amazing patrons. Guys, thank you so much for continuing to support me the way that you have been. And to everyone else listening, there's going to be spoilers for all of the series I'm going to be talking about, so tread carefully. Natedawg asks, now that All Might and Deku are going together alone with no backup, do you think All Might's death could come soon? So this is a great question, Natedawg, and now that I'm thinking about it, this must be it. Like, I didn't even come close to discussing All Might's death in my review for this chapter yesterday, because I guess it's just left my mind at this point, because I thought it was going to happen in the war, or I don't know, sometime before that, but it just never happened, and I guess I just kind of forgot about it, which I guess is what Horikoshi maybe wanted, and I fell into his little web of false security here. This honestly makes perfect sense for this to be the time when All Might dies, because I guess he still has to, right? I mean, it was Chekhov's death, essentially, because there's no reason to set up that All Might is in fact definitely going to die, and then for that to just ultimately go nowhere, or at least for an attempt on his life to not even be made. And rereading the final pages of this chapter definitely makes it seem pretty evident that at least an attempt will happen in the next coming chapters, if not just full-blown death, because All Might essentially like forces himself to tag along at this point after what Izuku says to his mom. And then when he's talking to Best Jeanist is like, "You're coming with us?" No, sir. I mean, I wonder if that's a good plan. And then he's like, "We already have Deku serving as the bait to track Shigaraki down. I was wondering how effective it would be. We will make sure to stay close by so that we may intervene quickly if needed." Yeah, it seems like this might be it, because, you know, why else would All Might be going to such a dangerous place right now, especially at this point in the story? And I always assumed that it was going to be Shigaraki who killed All Might, considering that his death was going to be super gruesome, and that lines up with, you know, decay. But at this point, maybe it could be All For One that does it, or All For One controlling Shigaraki, or just straight up Shigaraki does it, which obviously he's very capable of and seemingly still wants to very much. So yeah, I guess this is it, and if we are coming to the final act of the series and All Might is in fact destined to die, this would be the time to do it, I suppose, and we'll give Izuku his final little bit of motivation to ultimately take down Shigaraki and All For One. But for him to ultimately be taken out of the story at this point, it's going to be bittersweet. And I say because, you know, losing him sucks, but man, it's probably going to be a pretty great chapter at the same time. So yeah, I really wouldn't be surprised if All Might dies within the next maybe 5 or even less chapters possibly. Awakened Saitama asks, do you think Bafoi will talk to Genos and influence his look on Drive Night, making him suspicious or think twice about his intentions? So this is one of the things I'm looking forward to most in the next couple chapters of the webcomic. I just want to see what Metal Knight has to say about all of this stuff regarding Drive Night and organization, and I guess this will ultimately come when Genos inevitably confronts him. I mean, obviously we need to hear Metal Knight's side of things, and the perfect time would be when I guess he talks to Genos. And I guess that will be when we get the reveal that Drive Night is in fact a mad cyborg. I mean, if anybody could deliver this information, I guess it would be Metal Knight. And I guess it's at that point that, you know, Genos realizes the truth. And then I don't know if he's necessarily going to team up with Metal Knight or just, I don't know, not be an enemy to him. But if Drive Night ultimately just doesn't reveal it himself to Genos, like, "Ha, I've tricked you this whole time, I'm the mad cyborg," then I think candidate number 1 for sure is going to be Metal Knight. Delamante asks, how strong do you think Shanks is compared to the other strongest characters in One Piece, such as Roger, Whitebeard, Garp, and the other Yonko? So I think he's right up there, you know, in the very top tier of power. Can't really say how strong he is in relation to like Prime Whitebeard, Prime Roger, Prime Garp, because, you know, we don't have too much extensive feats on them. Not to mention that we hardly have any feats on Shanks at this moment, but given the hype, given the progression of the story, seemingly him being an adversary after Kaido, and in my opinion, I think he's probably the strongest current Yonko. Especially now that it's being revealed that seemingly the highest tier of power involves you incorporating Conqueror's Haki into your attacks, I've always assumed that this was like Shanks' style, like that's pretty much all that he did. And I talked about it a few times in my videos on Twitter, but you know, the video games also kind of give insight into what Shanks could be doing with Conqueror's Haki. And it seems like he may even be on a higher level of it than even Kaido has shown to be so far. So honestly, I really wouldn't be surprised if Shanks is the strongest pirate right now in One Piece. Dino W asks, would you take the Super Soldier Serum? So this is a tough question, especially since we're getting more insight into the side effects of it. You know, in the latest episodes of Falcon and Winter Soldier, it's like, of course I want superhuman physicality, that would be incredible, but at the same time I don't want to become insane. And it's like, do you take the gamble? Do you think that you're as resilient or just as great as Steve Rogers and then you could just, I don't know, become a better version of yourself? Or you're like, I guess the majority of the other people who take it and just become like seriously deranged or just, you know, like a crazy version of yourself. I mean, I don't know. It's so tempting. I mean, I feel like maybe I would ultimately try to take the risk and see what would happen, just to at least taste, you know, superhuman physicality at least once in my life, you know? And then your second question, what is your opinion on Battle Beast and everything that happened at the end of Invincible episode 5? So I haven't watched Invincible yet. I've only seen one YouTube clip of it, which I guess is at the end of episode 1 when it gets extremely graphic. And that definitely intrigued me so much, made me want to watch Invincible. But there's so many people asking me about Invincible in this specific Q&A video that now it's like, I definitely have to watch it now. Because if you guys enjoy it this much, then obviously I will too. Geruda asks, do you think Yuji will eventually be free of Sukuna but keep his life as well as his combat abilities? So this is best case scenario for the ending, right? And I guess a lot of us assume that it could potentially be headed this way, but it also is possible that Geji might not give us this, you know, this perfect ending for this series. There has been a lot of twists and turns, and a lot of it has been tragic as well. So it's very possible that Yuji ultimately does what he said he was going to do. Get all 20 of Sukuna's fingers and then take him down with himself. And then ultimately in his death, he will be surrounded by people that care for him or he cares for them, you know, surrounded by loved ones. And I could definitely see that happening, considering that was, you know, set up in the beginning. Or, you know, he somehow separates from Sukuna, but also keeps his combat abilities. Not necessarily sure if he's gonna keep an immense amount of cursed energy, but it seems like the combat abilities will stay, considering it's heavily implied that Kenjaku purposely made Yuji that strong so that he could be a vessel for Sukuna. Jimmy P asks, could you please elaborate on One Punch Man Season 3 estimated time of arrival? Will the excessively hyped Blast be appearing in Season 3? So first of all, no, I don't think Blast is going to appear in Season 3 unless they include him in a new anime exclusive sequence, which very likely could happen. And as for when Season 3 is coming out, I've talked to so many people about this, and it ultimately comes down to us having no idea, simply because we have no information, no news, no nothing. They've been very silent about this. But I think I talked about this in a video I made last year involving Season 3, and it's that I think that the retcons and redraws for the manga has all been done for Season 3, meaning that Season 3 is definitely going to be a thing, but just when it's coming out, I ultimately have no idea. Maybe 2023, possibly. Little Ferrari asks, what disaster level would you give the rumbling from Attack on Titan? Like you said, it would be God level for the Attack on Titan world for sure. But as for One Punch Man, I don't think it would necessarily be God, because I think that there are a few S-class heroes who could deal with the rumbling. I won't say who. I don't want to go too much into a cross-series battle here, but I think it would for sure be, you know, Dragon, maybe even above Dragon. I mean, you essentially have like an army of beefcakes, not necessarily strong if it's like equal in power to Beefcake, but it's relative for sure. I mean, for all I know, the Hero Association, if they saw that, would just straight up establish it as God level, but also given how they act, maybe they wouldn't. Maybe they would just say it's like a dragon or something. Or their classic ambiguous statement saying like, it could be above threat level dragon or something. Lewis asks, if we were to replace Saitama with a regular B-class hero after Garo dines and dashes, do you think Garo would have actually killed the hero to earn his place in the Monster Association? So no, I don't think he would have. I don't think Garo would ever kill a human. even I guess what in the manga it's going to be revealed that even at the peak of his monsterization or whatever's truly going on with him, even then he's still not truly capable of killing a non-monster, which lines up with who Garo is truly, which is the savior of mankind in a way, but just going about it in his own way, which makes Garo a great anti-villain. But if he were to ever kill a human or just a hero or a non-monster, I think it would be by accident. Him willingly killing a person, I think, might ruin Garo's character or just take everything away that makes him unique. Mr.Awsome asks, if Eneru immediately started training after he got to the moon, how strong do you think he would be post time skip? So he would need to have access to training that allowed him to have super good armament, take his observation to the next level, which it doesn't really seem like he has access to that on the moon. So it would come down to like who's training him and what knowledge does he have access to. If he just did standard training, I guess, what the One Piece world just allows you to do, maybe something similar to like what Usopp was doing, then I guess he would get stronger, but definitely not strong enough to be able to compete with like Luffy, Zoro, or maybe even Sanji. But if he did have similar training to those three, then he would be up there with the commanders for sure, probably. Second question, could the Billboard top 10 heroes on Trigger take down USJ All Might? So that's a pretty fun scenario, and I'll say that it's very possible that the top 10 on Trigger could maybe take down USJ All Might. He does have a limit after all. It's not like he could just keep going, but at the same time, even on Trigger, I'm not really sure if they're going to be able to take like one, genuine Detroit smash. The USJ All Might was only able to take those because of his quirk set, which clearly the top 10 wouldn't have, and on Trigger, I don't think that the durability is going to go up to the point of where they could take those shots. So I don't know, maybe it's like a coin flip possibly. It comes down to if All Might can take them all out fast enough before they can get some momentum going. Because if they got momentum on All Might, they could definitely take down the USJ version of him. Nico L asks, what do you think would happen to the standout students of Class 1A and 1B if they took Trigger? So they would all be monsters for sure. I don't even know what it would be like if Izuku took Trigger. That would truly be crazy. But like Bakugo, if he took it, maybe it would give him something similar to the power-up that One For All gave him, when it kind of made his quirk like a molten explosion type thing. Tokoyami, like you said, would be crazy as well, because I guess he would maybe even go further than when he was like in his berserk form in the training camp arc. And then Ida taking Trigger, he would go even faster than he normally would. So maybe it would be like the fastest attack we've seen in My Hero so far. I'd really like to see Hononuki on Trigger too. He's already pretty powerful just as is, but if he had the amplification of Trigger, then he would be really tough to deal with, in my opinion. Paper Wario asks, with the reveal of the brain's identity, do you think Noritoshi Kamo was really as evil as people thought, or do you think Kenjaku had more to do with that reputation? Yeah, I think that it was definitely Kenjaku. Noritoshi Kamo was probably an okay guy, I guess. It's hard to say, but definitely Kenjaku was the one that gave him the reputation for the evilest sorcerer, or whatever the moniker for him was. The present day Noritoshi Kamo seems like a cool guy. I don't know if that necessarily means that his ancestor was, but definitely think this was Kenjaku for sure. Second question, how do you think the tournament arc would have played out had Inasa attended UA and participated? So I think he would have made it to the finals for sure, and it ultimately comes down to him against Bakugo, I suppose. And could he defeat Bakugo at that time? I don't know, it would be pretty competitive. Inasa was, at the top of all hero students, I suppose, or at least in the provisional license exam. He was, certainly up there with Bakugo and Shoto, just being, on levels of inherent talent, along with having a crazy powerful quirk. And he was a recommendation just the same way that Shoto was. PFM18 asks, what if Saitama didn't intervene and Flashy Flash and Sonic would have fought the Ninja Leader? Great question, and I don't really know, because, the Ninja Leader, we didn't really get to see anything from him. But if he did in fact go tit for tat with Blast to some extent, it said it was an epic battle or something, so if he could push Blast even a little bit, then I don't know, maybe it's not looking so good for Flashy Flash and Sonic at that point. Flash Flash and Sonic, I don't know, maybe mid-diff the Heavenly Ninja Party or something, and they hyped up the Ninja Leader pretty hard. So does that mean that, I don't know, would it be competitive? Would he just be too much for them? Not really sure, honestly, but I mean, it all depends on how far he pushed Blast, who I'm assuming is probably just as strong in the webcomic as he is in the manga. Samurai asks, I'd like to use this slot for you to be able to say anything you may have wanted to say. I don't have much to say except that I recently remembered that, you know, Garo is still a part of the story in the manga and he has yet to come to the surface, so I'm super excited for that. Have I seen Invincible? I've only seen one of the clips on YouTube where I think it's from the end of the first episode where it gets, you know, pretty graphic, and it looked amazing. I didn't expect it to be like that. And a lot of people have been talking to me about it in these Q&As, so I'm definitely going to watch it. And then your third question, if Zoro was replaced with Katakuri in the fight against the two Yonkos. So I don't think it would necessarily make them stronger or weaker. Maybe it would be like a lateral move, because I guess Katakuri on paper is around the same level as Zoro, somewhere around there. I mean, that was certainly more of an option before Zoro had defended against the Conquest of the Ocean, even though it was just for a little bit. And then, you know, recently cutting Kaido with Ashura, which is actually Conqueror's Haki. So now I'm not really sure. Maybe Zoro is stronger than Katakuri. And then even that being said, I don't know if Katakuri could replicate those feats that Zoro just recently showed. But I think his support to the team overall would be pretty good. I mean, he has an awesome fruit, very versatile, and his future sight seems to be at the highest level amongst that group, maybe even more so than current Luffy, not really sure. But it wouldn't hurt them, I think. Sean H asks, I was wondering where you think Megumi will be headed power-wise. The obvious answer is him gaining a new, stronger Shikigami and eventually Maharaga and to complete his domain, but do you think there could be anything else? Maybe a Black Flash? So yeah, I think everybody is eventually going to use Black Flash at some point, or everybody important, I'll say. And then, yeah, I mean, he's going to get Maharaga, I assume so. And then, of course, the complete domain. And then the only thing left is either him discovering something about the 10 Shadows technique that no other user of it has before, or he'll use his maximum technique, which we haven't seen yet. And then aside from that, I don't know, maybe there's some kind of other hidden potential to him, something possibly why Sukuna is interested in him. Snowpeas asks, would you rather have a quirk or a devil fruit? So I'd say, I mean, it comes down to like, how am I going to get these abilities? Because at first I would just pick devil fruit because you can choose, you know, which devil fruit you want to eat. As we're with the quirk, you're kind of born with it, and if you get a useless one, you're kind of screwed. So if I had the option to choose which quirk I wanted or which devil fruit I wanted, I would pick a quirk because, you know, I would still be able to swim at that point. I wouldn't have the weakness to water. But if it was kind of just like you're just born with a random quirk, or you have the option of eating the devil fruit that you want, then I would, you know, eat a devil fruit that I want for sure. StarReaper asks, do you see Psycho's turning her evil ways around and joining the Saitama group? So yes and no. I do think that she'll have a face turn, which should be coming kind of soon in the webcomic, because I think she's ultimately going to be like a big help with the God battle stuff. She's going to give some information on him and just be just another former villain turned ally, which is always cool. But as for her joining the Saitama group, not really sure. I think at the minimum she might join the Blizzard group or something. I could see something like that, with then I guess would be an extension of the Saitama group in a way. But I wouldn't be surprised if she did ultimately just, you know, be a part of like that group by the end. And then second question for the anime, what do you think ends up being one of the funniest scenes? For me, it's when Carnage Kabuto puts Genos' head in the hallway early on. So that's a good one. But the one that really got me the most is when Sonic shows up after the Deep Sea King fight and he's like earnestly talking to Genos about everything that's going on. And they just have like this short, you know, serious conversation. And then Sonic leaves and then Genos is just like, who was that pervert? Wolffire54 asks, are you expecting Blast to have the same levels of feats of strength and speed as Omni-Man from the Invincible series? So as I've been saying, I haven't watched Invincible yet. I only saw a clip from the end of the first episode, I think. And it really made me interested in the series, and I will watch it. And I had it on my list for sure, but now that I've gotten so many questions about it, I'm definitely gonna watch it soon. I'm sure it's just as great as you guys are making it out to be. For your second question, it seems like Blast has been in the superhero business for a while now. So do you think he could have at one point had his own Justice League, or probably just on his own the whole time? So I would like to think at the minimum that Blast was at least an acquaintance with the other strongest people in the world, like, you know, in his heyday. There's no real evidence for that yet, more so him like looking out for the strongest like monsters or villains in general, but not so much heroes, because you think that Silver Fang might have had some kind of relationship with Blast, but you know, that's never been talked about. So given off of the information and evidence that we have, I guess we're just led to believe that he's just mainly been on his own this whole time, and also him saying the whole hobby thing about being a hero probably lines up more with that. And I don't think he would have like a Justice League, more so just be acquaintances to like other strong people. Zapphod B asks, who do you think would win in a battle between Withered Sprout and Green? So I think it would come down to if Green had information on Withered Sprout coming into the battle. Like if he knew what he was about, then I think he would immediately just, you know, bind him the way that he did to Neon, and then I guess Withered Sprout is done. But if Green comes into that battle similar to how the Surly brothers did, then I guess Withered Sprout would get him the same way he did with them, with like his Ice Blast. So it ultimately comes down to who's gonna get their one, you know, move off first. Second question, do you think the Hero Names Victim Association will ever serve a purpose in the series other than being a gag? And if so, what kind of role will they play in the future? This is a great question, and I don't know. They are a great gag and a nice little thing for Saitama to do at this point in the story. And you'd think that, okay, since they are kind of prevalent and Saitama keeps mentioning them, I mean, he mentioned them in the most recent chapter, I think. You're thinking like, okay, so where does this all head? And one of those writers that I like to think uses the whole cow. Like, he doesn't really put anything to waste. Like, anything that he mentions or puts on the page, he's going to have some use for it. So what is the ultimate goal of the Hero Names Victim Association? I really don't know at this point, but I wouldn't be surprised if they lead to something substantial in the story. Either them discovering something, them giving useful exposition, or them advancing a storyline in some unexpected way. Maybe they're the ones that somehow figure out what's going on with the Neo heroes and expose them possibly, and then that's their significance maybe. So that's pretty much it for the video today, guys. Once again, I want to thank all 128 of my amazing patrons. And if you would like to be in next week's Q&A, simply check out the Patreon. The link is in the description. The $5 tier will give you access to this video. And if you haven't already, please subscribe as well. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.